for, I guess, for a lifetime. Yeah, it's great
Sure.
to be here.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm very glad that you're here, Ben, and it's nice to hear from you. Welcome to our gathering. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who maybe are participating with our Sangha by joining the live recordings. So they're not here in our meetings typically, but follow along through the recordings, and that's really wonderful. And we also have this, continuous opening point where there are opportunities to show up and be here together in community and have this more live experience. But if you're here, if you're practicing, if you're following the teachings, if you're Sila, Samadhi, Panya, then we're on the path together. And that's really the joy of the practice. So I want to welcome everyone here for this live session. It is Thursday, November 23rd, about 6 p.m. here in California. And this is traditionally known as Thanksgiving here in America. Now, America has a long history of genocide, racial terror, all kinds of horrible, difficult things to deal with and process, right? A lot of trauma and a lot of cognitive dissonance or ignorance and attachment. Uh, Connected with Thanksgiving is not only this historical trauma of the genocide of the Native Americans, but it is also the kind of commercialism and ultra materialism of America with the Black Friday, right? And then you kind of bring in the history of slavery in there as well with the blacks. So there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of difficulty that we can get into when it comes to American holidays. But uh, better than dwell on our suffering, we can make use of the suffering or make use of this day, not to ruminate, not to drown, not to kind of be lost in the muck, but to make use of this suffering to bring about joy, peace, freedom, mindfulness, right? And that's what we're gathering to do right now. So, coming together to give thanks. And that's kind of what uh, our practices are going to be together today. Okay? So, to begin, we're going to listen to the sound of the bell together and go ahead and find your meditation position comfortable, upright, stable. Um, Find a relaxed, lovely, fresh position for your body. Get comfortable, but also upright. Find the breathing. Use the breathing as this kind of access point to bring the mind and the body together. And as we hear the sound of the bell, as we invite the sound of the bell, we can also invite our mindfulness, our present moment awareness to become bright and rich and direct. So we'll start with 3 sounds of the bell. So much like America, we also have our traumas, our difficulties, our darknesses that are difficult to understand, difficult to process, difficult to work with. And oftentimes, this can keep us from making use of or taking advantage of the present moment experience, what we have available to us right now. A way that we can step forward and intervene in that lack of making use that we so often find ourselves trapped in, we can really give thanks, be grateful, appreciate what is already here, what is already right here, right now in our present moment experience. This may be uncomfortable, may be comfortable, may be neutral. There may be different ideas or stories or concepts that come up as we start to make use of the present moment experiencing, physical or mental. But there is at the same time a capacity to appreciate just the way that things are right now, just the body as it is right now, just the mind as it is right now, just the breathing as it is right now. And that these moment by moment experiences, mental, physical, the breathing, this kind of moment by moment noticing, is exactly the access point to really connecting with and making use of phenomena to perceive clearly or to have a realization. The realization of just the sound of the bell. The realization of just this present moment breathing experience, everything, the whole universe in this breath, in this moment. And rather than this being a notion or an idea, a kind of concept of being grateful, of appreciating what we have in our home or in our life or in our relationships, in fact, it's the practice of recognizing what's right here, right now, in terms of mental phenomena, in terms of physical phenomena, and practicing with that this is enough. I can be grateful for this. I can appreciate this. I can be nourished by this. Sometimes this can be a little bit complicated, and we don't want to complicate anything, so we can turn towards, we can stay with our present moment breathing experience. Don't trap yourself in the breathing. Don't get stuck in breathing. Don't make breathing a problem. Rather, use the action of breathing, to be stable in just aware and kind of grateful for just the way that things are right now, just the natural state of this experience. And in a sense, at this moment, we're kind of putting the phone on silent. We're putting the life or the tomorrow or the yesterday or the all the relationships and all these kinds of things, putting that to the side for a bit. We don't know if it's going to come up or come back, or we're just putting it to the side. And in terms of this gratefulness or this appreciation of what we already have, very much so the present moment experience of this breathing, this body, the fleetingness of mental formations, just coming back to the breath and this experience. How grateful we can be for all that this is. Let the body relax. The body doesn't need to go anywhere or do anything, and the mind need only be concerned with present moment breathing awareness. The mind coming home to the body and just being. Grateful for the breath, giving thanks for every subtle aspect of this present moment experience, moment by moment. Nourishing our heart mind on the stillness and the natural presence, but also this brightness, this profundity of everything right here. This is it. This is our life. And not only are we here for it and opening to it, but this sense of giving thanks and gratefulness. Whatever tension arises, mental tension or physical tension, give your present moment breathing awareness to that. Know that you have the capacity to embrace, to calm, to settle, to free that formation, to relax it. So you don't need to think too much about that feeling or that experience, just the finishing, the resolving, present moment breathing and brightening. On this day in the American tradition, sometimes there's a lot of eating. So you may have a feeling in the stomach. You may feel full physically. Or maybe there's just a knot or a tension somewhere in the body or somewhere in the mind. Try to practice present moment breathing, present moment experiencing. Sometimes pain or a difficulty seems unprocessable or unworkable, but it just needs a little bit more light, a little bit more mindfulness, a little bit more gentleness, care, compassion, sweetness, softness, brightness. You can offer your present moment breathing to the whole body and mind. There's not much rush or force or control necessary. It's a matter of the heart. So, in a few moments, we will hear the sound of the bell, and we'll continue with the reading from Zen Master Foyan. Don't get stuck on a particular period of meditation. Make life meditation, and the meditation experiences will come naturally. Okay, so at this time, if there's any tightness or uncomfortableness in the position of your body, you can adjust a little bit. You can also massage your face if you feel any tension kind of built up there. We're going to continue our practice together by looking at this book, Instant Zen, Waking Up in the Present, and something I've been working with in my practice this past week or so. We've read a little bit of it together in our previous group meditations. Zen Master Foyan is recognized as a real enlightened kind of Zen master's Zen master from ancient China. I believe the year 1060 something to when he passed away. And we are fortunate that this 1000 plus year old tradition of Chan or Zen Buddhism is really, in some sense, very transmissible to us because it was recorded in the traditional Chinese language, which has been maintained for 1000 plus years. So translating that from English is quite possible, and so we have these direct translations from ancient Zen masters of old, and it's a real gift. It's really something to be grateful for to read through this and listen deeply. Okay? One of my mentors here at Deer Park Monastery, where I'm staying right now, um, is a American monk or Western monk who's been ordained for more than almost 20 years, has been living as a monk and trained directly with Thich Nhat Hanh. And he told me the other day that, and I find this really inspiring and maybe something that all of us can aspire to in our practice, that when he feels a sense of suffering or a difficulty, right, one of these blockages or one of these experiences or situations come up of suffering, of unsatisfactoriness, that he actually feels a kind of excitement or joy because he knows that he can learn from that. He can grow from that. And I've experienced this recently as well, that a lot of times when we go to our coping mechanisms or when we turn back to those old habits or when we find ourselves kind of turning towards unskillful seeds inside of us, the reason that that's happening is because we're moving forward. So we need to learn how to continue the practice, and that means that we show up to practice meditation, we study, we listen to Dhamma talks, we follow precepts, right? We practice volunteering, doing good deeds, whatever it may be. But also we know how to avoid the unnecessary pitfalls. We know how to get ourselves up and take ourselves for a walk rather than ruminating, rather than drowning in our non-practical, complicated thinking. And then sometimes it also has a quality of negativity to it or a quality of trauma to it, right? So we need to recognize when we start to kind of fall back or get stuck and pick ourselves up and take ourselves for a walk, right? To protect the mind, to take care of the mind, to be watchful over the mind. And that's not just about, okay, I need to practice 20 minutes of meditation every day, or I need to listen to this guided meditation, I need to do this, this, and that. It's more that we really take this position of being the caretaker of our mind, no matter what. Watching over the mind, protecting the mind from unwholesome seeds, thinking, negativity, so that we don't get lost in our unskillfulness, because we need our energy to do the work. We need this mind of brightness, of wholesomeness, of openness, of care to do the work that we want to do, to walk on this path, to keep being mindful, to keep doing good deeds, and really to detach, right? To scrub out all of the fuzzies and crusties that are in our eyes and to see clearly, right? To see reality directly. And we can do it for sure. We can do it right now. So, instant Zen, waking up in the present. And this text is, this reading here is entitled Naked Realization, or Direct Realization, Immediate. And as we listen to this teaching, try to listen from the body, listen from the breathing, listen from the heart. Don't rely on rationalization. You can't rationalize even your intellectual mind, right? You can't control your emotions, your intellect. You can't kind of go into the mind and use rationality to heal and meditate or develop wisdom, right? So don't rely too much on rationalization, just the deep listening from the heart, from the body. And let's see what we can get out of this teaching. Naked realization. Just now, an assistant came and announced that the rain isn't stopping, and people may not be able to hear if a meeting is held in the rain. Supposed the rain stopped right now, then would you hear? I say it's best when the rain doesn't stop. Why? Because you are not deliberately trying to listen. How about when they say that the sound of the rain has given you a sermon or given you a teaching? Is that correct? I do not agree. The sound of the rain is giving you a sermon. But do you understand? Clarify it directly. Then what else is there? People who go journeying to study Zen today should bring a statement to harmonize with the teacher. Why do you pain yourself and cramp yourself as you do? Let me also ask you, what teacher would you harmonize with? If you want to harmonize with a teacher, just get to know your own mind. Now let me ask you, what is your mind? And how do you know it? Here, you cannot force an understanding. You must actually look inward and discover it. The ancient teachers had no choice but to make provisional explanations where there is no explanation, skillfully employing expedient means where there are no expedients. One day, when Zhuangxia went into the mountains, he encountered a tiger. His assistant told him there was a tiger there, but Zhuangxia just said, "It's your tiger." Now, with mountains and rivers crisscrossing the land, domains of existence everywhere, discriminating thoughts branching off in 1,000 ways and diverging in 1,000,000 ways, how can you explain this logic of it's yours? If you don't understand this, you will be fatally obstructed everywhere. It is just because you have been following material senses and been influenced by things since time immemorial, you try to point out what are things and what are you. This is why a seeker asked Zen Master Xuanxia, "I have just entered the community. Please show me a way of access." Xuanxia said, "Do you hear the sound of the valley stream?" The seeker said, "Yes." Xuanxia said, "Gain access from here." Nowadays, people do not clearly understand this story, simply saying the essence of mind is omnipresent. Who else hears? What relevance has this sort of discourse? You must be completely naked before you will attain realization. For now I ask you, have you dressed? You can be so shameless. Let's go straight forward. Seeing mind. As soon as you begin to rationalize, it is very hard to understand. You must refrain from rationalization before you can attain realization. Hearing such talk, some people immediately declare, I have nothing to say at all, and no reason either. They do not realize this is in fact a rationalization. I will settle something for you right now. The ultimate rule is to see your own mind clearly. This is what Buddhism is, as far as I am concerned. An ancient one said, the mind does not know itself. The mind does not see itself. So how can you see it clearly? The mind does not know itself. The mind does not see itself. So how can you see it clearly? What will you do? Even though it is your own mind, it is hard to see. All the sages since time immemorial have been people who clearly saw their own minds. My late teacher was someone who saw his own mind, but among those here who were also associated with him in the past, there are very few who clearly see their own minds. Mind does not see mind. To get to it, you must not see it as mind. This is a realm apart from thoughts. So this is not a matter of thoughts. Seeing your own mind, seeing the essence of your self, your true self, is not a matter of thoughts. Now, if I say this to people, they think I am criticizing everyone else. But if I do not talk about it, it will be hard to elucidate. Zen teachers of a certain type say to people, fools, why don't you understand this thing? First, they make a cliché of your own mind, then try to use the mind to realize it. This is called driving a spike into a stump and then running round and round the stump. They pass it on this way, and it is taken up this way, knocking on their chairs and holding up their whisks. This is called trying to use the mind by means of the mind. There is another type of Zen teacher who tells people not to make logical assessments, that they lose contact the minute they speak and should recognize the primordial. This kind of teacher has no explanation at all. This is like sitting on a balloon. Where is there any comfort in it? It is also like the croaking of a bullfrog. If you entertain such a view, it is like being trapped in a black fog. I am exhorting you in utter seriousness. I am not lying. I am not making up rationalizations to trap people. I will not allow people to oppress the free. I have no such reasons. If you recognize this, that is up to you. If you say you also see this way, that is up to you. If you say that everything is all right according to your perception, that is up to you. If you say your mind is still uneasy, that is up to you. You can only attain realization if you don't deceive yourself. There are quite a few Zen teachers in the world talking about Zen, talking about the way. Do you think they are self-deceived or not self-deceived? Do you think they are deceiving others or not deceiving others? It is imperative to discern minutely. In the old days, when I was in the school of my late teacher, I once accepted an invitation to go somewhere. On the way, I ran into a downpour and slipped in the mud. Feeling annoyed, I said to myself, I am on the journey, but have been unable to attain Zen. I haven't eaten all day and now have to endure this misery too. Then I happened to hear two people ranting at each other. You are still annoying yourself. When I heard this, I suddenly felt overjoyed. Then I realized I couldn't find the state where there is no annoyance. That was because I couldn't break through my feeling of doubt. It took me 4 or 5 years after that to attain this knowledge. Now you should exercise your attention in this way. I have brought up the saying that inanimate things teach, but many are those who misunderstand. When you see inanimate things, you say they are inanimate. And when you see animate beings, you consider them animate. If you who study Zen do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how can you understand the task of the journey? If those who act as teachers do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how can they deal with people in beneficial ways? I urge you to examine closely enough to effect an awakening. If you do not yet have an awakened perspective, then approach it in a relaxed manner. Do not rush. Let's listen to a sound of the bell. So let's perhaps look a little bit closely at this idea of the teaching of inanimate objects. What is the teaching of this? What is the essence of reality that is being expressed by inanimate objects? If you who study Zen do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how can you understand the task of the journey? If those who act as teachers do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how can they deal with people in beneficial ways? I urge you to examine closely enough to effect an awakening. So, how can we examine inanimate objects, or this notion of the teaching of inanimate objects, closely enough to effect an awakening? Well, Bob says emptiness. I mean, that sounds like a good answer, but I'm also questioning what is the teaching of a bell? Bob says we are not our thoughts and ideas. Do you understand what is the teaching of inanimate objects now?
Somewhat.
Okay, share a little bit, please.
No, no, no. Not so much as you're comfortable talking to it.
Well, a bell's not going to argue with us, is it? A bell is just going to ring. Is this the teaching of inanimate objects? How about a tree? Do you need to hit the tree to hear the sound of the bell? Do we need to meditate to know what awakening is? Do we need to rely on thoughts, to drink tea, to be with our loved ones, to be grateful? Where do thoughts come from? Where do they go? Where are all the thoughts that you've ever had until now? Are they in the sound of a bell? The question becomes how deeply, how carefully, how closely are we willing to look? not to rely on the stories, the ideas, not to rely on what we are told by someone else, not to rely on what seems to be right or seems to be the case, not even to rely on what makes sense. Let's try this. Discovery. Instant Zen. Keep in mind the instant, right? We may want to rationalize. We may want to philosophize. We may want to create some kind of dogma about the teaching of inanimate objects. But that's not understanding the teaching of inanimate objects. That's our dogma. That's our words and phrases. That's our ideas that we're coming up with. Discovery. And these are the teachings, these are the words of Zen Master Foyan from the year 1000, translated to English. My teacher used to tell a metaphysical story. Suppose two people from a foreign country come to a great nation to investigate things. When they first enter the territory, the two have a discussion and decide to part ways. One will go east, the other west. From state to state they go, county to county, traveling over hill and dale, until they arrive at the eastern capital. The two suddenly run into each other at the gate of the capital city. As they look at each other without saying a word, the things they had discussed in their own country are clear. Now they go in side by side, unknown to anyone. Strange. Tell me, how is it when they run into each other? It is like Zen practitioners working. Today they realize a little bit. Tomorrow they found out a little bit. And they keep on investigating until one day it becomes evident to them. This is like that encounter at the gate of the capital city. This is called awakening or breakthrough or discovery. You must attain this at least once. Only then can it be said that the task of the journey is done. It is also like meeting your father in a big city many years after having left your hometown. You do not need to ask anyone whether or not it is your father. Just keep focused in this way. Do not take it for idleness. Time does not wait for anyone. An early teacher said, "Don't waste time." Each of you should work on your own. Discovery. Without saying a word, the things they had discussed in their own country are clear. Now they go in side by side, unknown to anyone. What's this all about? Is it instant Zen? Is it about waking up in the present? Waking up to what? Waking up to who? What delusions are we carrying around with us? What confusion or not understanding is necessary right now? What can't you understand? What can't you see? Where can't you go? Is it not all right here in the sound of a bell? Well, getting nothing to get doesn't sound like much of anything at all. Certainly not something worthy to bring up. If you get emptiness, then you haven't gotten anything at all. If you don't understand, then you understand not understanding. We have to look for ourselves. We have to see for ourselves what is the mind. What is it? Free of someone, some place, some time, some experience, some idea. What is your mind? Okay, we can finish with a song, and everyone's welcome to sing along with me if you know this song. Okay, the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Clouds come, clouds go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Thoughts come, thoughts go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Teachings come, teachings go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Okay. Any questions or sharing experience before we finish up today? That's great, Paul. The bell always brings me back to the present and helps to concentrate on just whatever is in that moment. And even the concentration itself, the awareness itself, the not just the not just the sound of the bell, but the sound of the bell, the voice of Buddha, the voice of the universe, right? Awareness itself, that penetration to direct experiencing, even beyond the phenomena in that experience, the hot, the cold, the black, the white, the good, the bad, just the experiencing. That can be just the walking in the walking, just the seeing in the seeing, just the breathing in the breathing. And there's so much happening. Okay, so let's finish with a dedication of the merits as we usually do. All right, we can all bring our hands together and repeat after me. May all the merits that we have done till now
May all the
May
merits
all the
that
merits
we
that
have
we
done
have
till
done
we have
now
till
done till
now
now
be dedicated and shared out with all beings.
be
be
dedicated and
dedicated
shared
and
out
dedicated
with
and
shared
shared
all
out
out
with
with
beings.
all
all
beings.
beings.
May all beings rejoice and share in our merits.
May all
May
May
beings
all
all
beings
beings
rejoice and
rejoice
rejoice
share
and
and
in our
share
merit.
share in
in
our
our
merits.
merits.
Sadhu. Sadhu.
Sadhu,
Sadhu.
sadhu.
Okay, dear community, thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm sorry for the short notice, but happy day of this day, giving thanks, and may we all continue on the path, virtuous living, mindfulness, freedom. Okay? Thank you, friends.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Bante.
you.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bante.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, Ryback.
Bye.
See you soon.
See you soon.
All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. YouTubers, don't be shy to leave a like, to leave a comment. Helps more people come across our community and our events. And all of you TikTokers, make sure that you do connect with us through Discord, through our YouTube channel, so that you can, next time you can be in the call with us. And there's a really great joy of having that community experience where we just all gather together, and there's a closeness in that, almost like a Zoom meeting kind of feel. So don't hesitate to get connected, okay? All right?